Welcome, guys. This is Glasgow Rangers Nation. I'm Owen James, and this is all your latest Rangers news. We're going to have got all the latest fallout from the sacking of Russell Martin. This name, that name, the other name. Every man and his dog. Every man, his dog, his auntie's uncles, goldfish, his sisters, brothers, golf, Labrador, and Chihuahua, all linked with the Rangers job. I'm sure over the next few days, weeks, or however long this manager hunt takes, we will hear names come, names go. And we'll hear realistic names, unrealistic names, all linked with the job. I think we all agree all we want is a manager with some experience, a manager who will come in, who will organise the team, get the team playing a decent level of football. None of these project managers, don't want any more of this project rubbish. Don't want that. Want someone comes in, hits the ground running from day one, gets the team playing football as it should be played. You know, let's think back to the good old days, the great days of Sir Walter, of Graham Souness, of Big Eck, of Dick Advocat. They're the sort of types of manager we need to get back into the building. Yes, harder these days, given the fact, of course, we don't have the budget we once had, and obviously not the European pull we had during Graham Souness's era. But look, we're also going to talk about what Marathe and Andrew Cavenagh have said. Now, they have released an open letter to supporters last night, as is Rangers' way, it seems. Let's wait till the evening and bring out the latest news. We'll share all there is from that and go through that letter as well as obviously talk about Sean Dyche and Stephen Gerrard, who appear to be the two leading candidates at the moment for the job. But look, as we saw when we made the massive error of appointing the vegan from down south, obviously, his name wasn't even initially mentioned. It was a name that came later into the party. Let's hope that there's not some left field weird, I don't know, vegetable munching moron who wants the job as well now. Let's hope that we get a proper manager. Like I always said, maybe if they'd took Russell Martin to Miller and Carter, he might have turned out okay in the end. Right, so anyway, Marathe and Andrew Cavenagh have obviously written an open letter to fans explaining the situation. You know, Andrew Cavenagh in America, difficult for him obviously to speak to the media directly. Marathe, a man who I think, it's fair to say has his hands pretty full with what is going on with Leeds United at the moment, as they obviously struggle to try and keep themselves in the Premier League this season. But this is what Andrew and Parag wrote to supporters in the media today. Look, I've got to say, fair play to them for releasing a letter. Fair play for them for addressing the supporters. Yes, I would have preferred to have seen, maybe an interview with them. Maybe that's still to come on Rangers TV or on some other media partner. But, or even, putting someone I would love to see one of Andrew Cavenagh or Parag Marathe go and speak to David Edgar on Heart and Hand. I mean, let's face it, Heart and Hand, Heart and Hand. I have massive respect for David Edgar, massive respect for Heart and Hand. Of the club official partners, it is the main one, isn't it? It is the one that you can kind of say, has a lot of respect and has people running it who are genuinely good people. This is what they had to say. Dear supporters, as you've seen by now, we are making a change at Rangers and have parted ways with Russell Martin, Matt Gill and Mike Williamson with thanks for their hard work. Nice, obvious opening there to that letter, but then they go on to explain it a little bit further. While we took over the club this summer, we shared what we wanted to build for Rangers, to win trophies in Scotland and be able to compete at a high level in Europe. So it's clear from that high level in Europe, there was an indication that they wanted Champions League football. I think that was obvious from the very beginning. It was all about Champions League football. And as I said to you on previous videos, right back when the stories came out of the 49ers enterprises and Andrew Cavenagh were interested in taking over Rangers, it was always about the Champions League football. It was always about getting into Europe and competing in Europe's highest competition because, realistically, with the greatest respect to Leeds United, they're not going to break the top 4, top 5 in England anytime soon. So, the best opportunities they had of getting a football team into a Champions League competition was Rangers. Unfortunately, Russell Martin blew that for us. We know achieving these goals will take time, but our performances and results have not been good enough. We know you are frustrated. We are too. We did not get this right, and it's our responsibility to fix it and get us back on track. Now, that, for me, is the statement there. Respect them for coming out and saying this. We did not get this right, and it's our responsibility to fix it and get it back on track. So, look, I've got to say, look, I'm not blowing smoke up the club's arse. You know me. I will always speak my mind. I'll always tell you what I'm thinking, and I don't suffer fools. I don't believe in soft soaping anyone. I'm not going to brown nose the club, whatever. This, though, does get some respect, I think. The fact they've come out and said, look, we're frustrated, you're frustrated, we get that. We got it wrong, and we're now going to put it right. So fair play to them for coming out and admitting that. You know, they didn't have to put that last sentence in to that paragraph. If they'd left it, you know, with finishing the paragraph off with, we know you're frustrated, we are too, we want to get us back on track, and left it at that. That would have been I think, you know, what the old owners would have done. And a lot of owners would have done. But to come out and say, we didn't get this right, so in effect we got it wrong, and now we're putting it right. Respect to them for saying this. Well done, guys. A rigorous and thorough recruitment process is already underway, and we are treating it with the urgency it deserves. So it's clear this is not going to be something that drags on and on and on and on. There's quite clearly planning here. You know, the international break is here now. We've got 2 weeks of international break. It's quite clear that there was planning in place here. There was something in place here quite clearly to put this sacking into this period, to give them time, you know, when there isn't the European football, there isn't the league football, there isn't the Thursday, Sunday constant of play, of, you know, play, recover, train, play, recover, train, constantly. That pattern, you know, they want to get this right, and this is the time they took to do this. And they said there is urgency there. There is urgency to get this done. There is urgency to get this new manager in. Now, I would go on to say, you know, going what Patrick Stewart had said previously, I believe that there is clearly some plan in place here, that they've already had conversations, not perhaps directly, but through third parties and intermediaries, you know, as we know goes on in football, with potential candidates. You know, they will have a shortlist, I believe. The two of us are deeply involved, and with the evolution, with the evaluation, and we'll have our full attention until we are confident we have a leader with the character and the skill set to deliver results. Now, obviously, there is a caveat on this. Sorry, John Bennett-esque. There is a bit of a warning on this. You could say, well, should they fucked it up last time? They got it wrong last time. You know, they would look for the same thing. They wanted a leader. They want someone with a certain skill set. They thought Russell Martin was the man. They screwed it up. You know, I think obviously Kevin Thelwell, Patrick Stewart have to carry some of the blame for that. And look, you know, I'm hoping that Parag Marathe, that Greta Steenson, that Andrew Cavenagh are having a more hands-on approach to this, because I do feel that a lot of the Russell Martin appointment was down to Kevin Thelwell and to Patrick Stewart. And I do think that Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart have to carry some of the can for this. You know, not only for the appointment of Russell Martin and the insanity of that. You know, even with hindsight, looking back now, you look at that appointment and how was that ever the right appointment to make? The guy's CV was an utter disaster. You know, as I said to you before, one of my mates once said to me, "There's no CVs in football." You can see that from this man getting the job. Failed at MK Dons. Failed at Swansea. One good season at Southampton. Failed the season after. Gets the Rangers job. How does that work? How, when you fail at every job you do you get an upgrade? You know, if you are shit at shelf stacking, for example, they are not going to make you the store manager. If you become a store manager by some fluke and you're shit at that job, they're not going to make you the area manager. If you're shit at that job, they're not going to give you the CEO's job, are they? Well, it seems with Russell Martin, they did. So let's have a little look what else they've had to say on this. Moving forward, we are fully confident in our players who possess the talent and determination to succeed. At the same time, a great deal of important work is progressing across the club, building out a stable leadership and football structure under Patrick and Kevin's guidance, advancing detailed plans aligned with long-term strategy. So it's quite clear here, two things come from that. Let me finish the paragraph and I'll tell you the two things that are clear from that paragraph. And beginning the early stages of investment in planning for Ibrox. So obviously ground improvements, ground expansion. Your focus will rightly be on what is happening on the pitch, but this work also matters and it will help lay the foundation for our success in the future. So a lot to take from that paragraph. For the start off, it's clear that they have faith in the players. And look, I personally think that within this Rangers squad, there are a lot of very talented players. There are a lot of players who, with the right management, the right coaching, the right organisation, the right tactics, and the right motivation from the right man can actually do quite well. This team is not as bad as it looks on a Sunday or a Saturday. It is better. It has hope. It has players who can play football. It has talent. The reason it isn't doing that job is because the manager, head coach, whatever you want to call him, vegan wanker, whatever you want to call him, failed spectacularly to get the best out of him. This rests with one man and one man alone, Russell Martin, no one else. And I'll tell you something, if we were to play Let's say we were to line up with a formation that was something like this season. Jack Butland in goal, who's been brilliant this season, don't get me wrong. Players of the season for me. Tavernier at right back because Sterling's not fit. No, there is no one else. Max Aarons, yes, bad signing. Giga, Cornelius, Magoma as the back four. Yes, we should have more left backs. We don't, obviously. Raskin in midfield with, I think, Barron alongside of him. Bayrami in the 10. I think Bayrami is a better player than Asgard, and as played as a 10, I think he's got a lot of potential. A 4-3-3 type system here. Wide right, Finley Curtis. Central, Bojan Miovski. One chance, one goal. Mr. Miovski from Sunday. Not Mr. Miyagi, Mr. Miovski. And Gassama. 4-3-3. I think that team, rightly coached, rightly organised, actually makes a really good fist of it this season. Genuinely does. So for me, okay, fair enough on that point. It's clear no matter what we think. And look, I am someone who hates Patrick Stewart. I think the guy's useless. I think he's clueless. I think he's been down here from the planet Ferengi and just lost the plot. So I don't back Patrick Stewart at all. But it's quite clear that whether we like it or not, Parag Marathe and Andrew Cavenagh are currently backing Kevin Thirlwell and Patrick Stewart. That they are the people that we are kind of backing to take the club forward. Right, wrong, probably wrong, but we've got to let them get away with that for now. And it's about building that system, building in the trading model, building in the team, building in the off-field revenues, the streams, etc., etc. That's what they're saying here. That's what they want to see. That's what they want to see in terms of this club moving forward. Change is never easy, but we are determined by hard work. In fact, we have a great opportunity ahead. The season is not over and we have plenty to play for in all 4 competitions. Together, we are committed to delivering the performance and the results that you can be proud of. So there's clear aspirations at the club that this is not over yet, that they see this as still a winnable situation. And with the right man organising the team, who knows what can be achieved. Your loyalty to this club through thick and thin is something we do not take for granted. So it's quite clear that they've been listening, they've heard, they've understood that this is not something that they can just rely on. You know, they've seen people stay away in their numbers from the Cup game, from the League games, from the Europa League games. And then obviously that message has kind of got through, you know, that we can't take this for granted. They're not just going to keep coming back. They're not some dumb money tree that's just going to keep contributing no matter what. We've got to earn their respect. We've got to get them on side and we've got to listen. I think that is clear from what they've said there. We see the effort and the emotion you put into supporting Rangers and it drives us every day. We intend to earn your trust because we all share the same goal, restoring success to Rangers. And at the end of the day, that's what any of us want. That's all we want at the end of the day is this football club to be successful, to move forward. Now, yes, I have some worries and some concerns about Kevin Thirlwell and Patrick Stewart appointing a new manager. Of course I do. Of course I do. I wouldn't be human if I didn't have some concerns over those two appointing anybody, given their record with Russell Martin and some of the signings. So yes, there are some concerns there. Of course they are. And I'm sure you have those concerns as well. But what is good for me is that this letter has come out. They've been quite clear in why they've made a change. They've admitted they got it wrong. They've said they want to change it. They're clear in their backing Thirlwell and Stewart, whether you like it or not, whether we like it or not. I don't particularly like it, but we've got to accept it. They're clear as well, I think, now that they need to listen to fans. They need to try and earn trust and respect, and it's not just going to be given to them. You know, that they're not going to be seen as, oh, thank you so much for coming in and buying the club. Thank you so much. We're so grateful. You just do what you want to us from now on. That's not going to happen. Not going to happen. And it's clear they understand that. That's positive. That is good moving forward. But overall, a positive message there, I think, you know, that this club is about, they want that success. They want to move us forward. They want us to be successful in the future. And they see this season has not been over yet. Right, guys, let's move along a little bit. Let's have a little look at the latest runners and riders for the Rangers job. Look, as I mentioned, the latest 2 favourites appear to be Steven Gerrard and Sean Dyche. We'll talk a little bit about those in a moment. Davy Weir up there as well. Personally, don't see that as a management candidate. Especially not given the fact that Chelsea are sniffing round him for a football scouting, football director kind of role there. I can't see that one happening. Kevin Muscat, Danny Rule, the former Sheffield Wednesday manager. Graham Potter, just sacked by West Ham. Personally, don't think that's a good idea. Derek McInnes, that's an interesting one. Mark Van Bommel, another interesting one. Rafa Benitez, not one that I like. Stephen Davis, I think unrealistic. Gary O'Neill would be a dreadful appointment. A guy who failed at Wolves, failed at Bournemouth. For me, it's another project. It's another philosophy manager. It's another Russell Martin Mark II. So that, for me, is just a no-go. That's a no-go. There are a lot of names beyond that list. Brian Prisker, Kjetil Knutsen, Ruud van Nistelrooy, loads of different names. Steve Cooper, lots of different names. Right, so looking at that list, obviously, Gerrard and Dyche, top two there. We'll talk about them in a minute. Muscat, for me, would be a good appointment. Danny Rule is slightly worrying. I think he's another project manager. Derek McInnes, to me, would be a good appointment. Derek McInnes is someone who can do it in Scotland. He's proven at a number of clubs. He can organise a team. He can get a team playing together. He can get a team playing attacking football. He can get a team playing defensive football. He knows how to organise a football team. And there's one thing I think quite clear, is if McInnes was manager, I don't think the defence would be a shambles. I think we'd look like a team that actually looked organised and actually looked like it knew what it was doing. Do I think that Derek McInnes is a realistic target at this point? No, I don't. In the summer, yes, he would have been before he signed for Hearts. He's doing. Don't get me wrong, he is doing a brilliant job at Hearts, and I think Hearts are having a really good season, and I think personally we've got a real threat from Hearts this year for that second place. Real worry, a real concern there, but I don't think for 1 minute, that Hearts would entertain us trying to take him. The cost would be well, it would be too big. So I don't think that's a realistic one. Mark Van Bommel apparently was interviewed previously for the job, didn't get it. Mark Van Bommel is an interesting one. Was at PSV Eindhoven for a little while, 58.67% win percentage. Was at Wolfsburg, had a 30% win percentage, fell out with the president. Royal Antwerp, he got a 51.4% win percentage. So, he's overall, his actual stats are pretty good. He's got a good play. He's got a very stellar playing career, having played for PSV, Barcelona, played in the same team as Messi, Ronaldinho, Eto'o, Xavi, Iniesta, Puyol, Carlos, what's he called? Victor Valdez, some the most amazing players ever to play the game. But it was at Bayern Munich for a bit, AC Milan for a bit. The only thing I'd say about Van Bommel is there are a few questions over his temperament, that he is a bit arrogant, a bit full of his own self-importance, not quite the right person for the job from in terms of his attitude. That is a worry. Now, Sean Dyche and Steven Gerrard are the two most obvious candidates at this point in time for the managerial vacancy. Steven Gerrard obviously has history at the club. He won 55. He did that undefeated. He organised the team. It was the last time, I think, arguably, this team looked organised, looked like it knew what it was doing, looked like it knew how it was playing, looked like it knew what it was supposed to be doing. Played some good football. The team was fit, the team was healthy, the team was strong. He got the best out of most of the players. And I think, personally speaking, Steven Gerrard would have stayed as manager if he'd been backed. And I think one of the interesting things and points I heard raised listening to a podcast earlier was that if we'd had these owners with Steven Gerrard as manager post 55, then I think we would have fixed the roof while the sun was shining. And I think he would have been backed. And I think we would have gone on to probably win 56, 57 at the very least. So I think Gerrard has that history. Yes, he only won 1 trophy out of 9. Yes, there was the fall off. Yes, perhaps he was moving in the right direction. And yes, since he's left Rangers, he's had very little success. But like I said to you on the video yesterday, sorry if the dog's drinking again in the background, by the way. As I said yesterday, sometimes players, managers can only do it in one place. They can't do it anywhere else. Maybe Gerrard can only do it at Rangers. I don't know. That is a possibility. So at the end of the day, I personally wouldn't be opposed to Steven Gerrard coming back. I'd take him back. And even if that meant he brings back Michael Beale as an assistant of some description, I don't care. If we're winning trophies, couldn't give a monkeys. So, for me, that's a possible. Sean Dyche is another one that has been linked heavily with this job. Sean Dyche, look, I don't think Sean Dyche is a good manager at all for this club. I think he's a very good manager for a small club like Burnley. He's a very good manager in terms of organising a team for defensive football. He's a very good manager if you like muck bullets and very little attractive football. If you thought the football was boring under Russell Martin, you ain't seen nothing yet. This guy takes boring to a new level. My one worry about Sean Dyche is that he's previously worked with Kevin Thirlwell at Everton, and we do seem to have an unhealthy fascination with Everton at this moment in time. Obviously, appointing Purdy, appointing their person as a scout, the fact that Thirlwell Jr. is involved. So to me, there is a real worry there, a real concern there in terms of Sean Dyche. I personally would absolutely hate Sean Dyche to be Rangers manager. I think, if Sean Dyche was appointed as Rangers manager, it would be a bad thing. It would be a bad thing. Yes, in the short term, it might work. He'd organise us defensively. We'd lose less game. We'd be more defensively sound, but we'd be very dull. And I think in the short term, for the rest of this season, it could well work. But in the long term, I don't think he has any success in Europe. I don't think he wins us a league title. He's just not a very good manager. He's not a manager who is a big club manager. He failed at Everton. He kept them out. He kept them from getting relegated, which, theoretically, Everton are a big club, so their fans keep on telling us. I personally don't believe it. I think they're a little tin pot pathetic club. I think they're genuinely a bit of a joke of a football club, but there you go. He didn't do great there. So, and I know he was working under difficult circumstances, etc., etc. I just don't want Sean Dyche as manager of my football club. I just don't want boring, dull, defensive, nasty football. That's not what I want to see from Rangers. I want to see Rangers play football the right way. Yes, have an aggression there. Yes, be defensively sound, but also play with a bit of flair and a bit of attacking promise, like we did under Gerrard, like we did under Walter, like we did under Graham Souness. Certainly, I don't think Sean Dyche is, and I think Sean Dyche is the one that worries me. That it trends that we can't get anyone else, and it gets given to Dyche. I personally think that would be a disaster for the club. I genuinely do. I honestly think if Sean Dyche is appointed manager, come the end of the season, we're looking for another manager. Genuinely believe that. Barry, obviously, I think has been linked, and as I've said previously, I love Barry the player. I love Barry the captain. I love Barry the Rangers man. I do not love Barry the manager. I'd rather have Mike Bassett as the manager. I really would. Barry Ferguson's Rangers, he dines out on two games. Yes, we got a result at Parkhead, but most of the games he managed us for, we needed to score 3, 4, 5 goals to win us the game because we were conceding 2 and 3 goals every time. He lost a number of, I think it was 5 games. His win percentage at Rangers is not good. The football was not always great. We struggled at times under Barry, and it always took him losing his rag with people and shouting and yelling and screaming for him to get things done. Yes, in the short term, that works. In the long term, that doesn't work. And as he said himself, he doesn't want the job on an interim basis anymore. He wants it on a permanent basis. Personally, don't think that's a great idea. Look, do any of those names massively excite me? No, they don't really massively excite me. But as I've said to you before, it could be that if there's a name way down the list, who could come out of the left field, that we don't know yet. If I had to pick from that list, Muscat, yes. McInnes, yes. Gerrard, yes. That's pretty much it from that list for me. People say, well, Owen, who do you want? Well, look, if I could have anybody, Carlo Ancelotti, Jurgen Klopp would be the dream appointments, but that ain't going to happen because we ain't got the money. We haven't got the money to bring them in. So that's not going to happen at all. As much as I might love it, as much as I might love them to be our manager. I mean, I'd love to see Jurgen Klopp as the manager. I think he'd play gegenpress. It'd be fast. It'd be heavy metal football. It'd be aggressive. It'd be strong. It would be a million miles an hour. It would be interesting. I mean, Marco Rose is probably the closest you get to a kind of B-Tech Jurgen Klopp, isn't he? So David Wagner's another one who's a bit of a B-Tech Jurgen Klopp, but realistically, that is unrealistic, isn't it? It's never going to happen. So that's the list we're looking at. But like I said, it could be that someone comes completely out of left field who we don't get yet. I don't know. I really don't. It's not my job. I haven't got a scouting network. I haven't got a million people I can talk to over this. I have a full-time job. So it's not my job, guys. Look, I suppose a realistic person, if I could get anyone, Frank Lampard, I think would be a good manager. And yes, I was against Frank Lampard when his name was first mentioned, but he's done a good job at Derby. He's doing a brilliant job at Coventry. I live 15 minutes from the stadium. My stepdaughter is a Coventry City fan. I have to watch some of their games because of it, and they play some really good football. My partner's a Coventry City fan as well. But, so... Hey, there we go. Guys, let me know what you think anyway in the comments. Thank you for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation, guys. If you've enjoyed the content, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll catch you on the next one.